Thanks for coming today. I think it's really exciting to see such a great turnout, and it's a real pleasure to be here and share some of the learnings and insights from us at the Centre for Sustainability Leadership. Okay, let's hope this works. It's thinking. Down. Up. Could you change that just to the slide view? Thanks. Okay, I actually want to start by asking those who consider themselves a leader in sustainability to put up their hand. Great. So that's probably 15%, maybe close to 20%. I'd like to suggest that perhaps we all need to be putting up our hand. One of the things they asked me to talk about today was why should we position ourselves as a leader for sustainability? And my answer to that is actually we're all needed. We're all part of the puzzle, and actually we all need to step up, and now's the time. Okay? We're going to have fun and games. All right. The exact reason for that is why Centre for Sustainability Leadership was born, and our motto is we've tried to get people in positions of influence to care, and now we're going to get people who care into positions of influence. So in 2005, it was founded by Larissa Brown, who looked for so many avenues to be able to create real change academically, through other community groups, and felt like nothing was actually creating real meaningful change, or indeed engaging our current political parties. And so she decided to grow the capacity of people who already care and understand the piece about sustainability. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong one. There we go. So how our curriculum came to be was Larissa went around and interviewed 100 sustainability leaders around the world and asked them what they felt was important in regards to creating this real change and solving the problem of sustainability. Our main offering at the moment, where our national office is in Melbourne and I'm in Sydney, and we have a Leadership Rewired, which is an online program to build capability in this area. And we also have the fellowship program, which we're most known for, which is currently in Melbourne and Sydney and hopefully Queensland. We have had a few Queenslands actually apply down for it. So what is sustainability leadership? That's what I'm really here to talk about today. And we've heard about some of the problems and also, I totally agree, the opportunity that comes with this. We've heard of the challenge of building our capability in communities, acknowledging there's lots of different community forums. So what do we actually need to do to get there? Okay, so yes, good old Einstein said that clever people know how to solve problems. Guess what? We've already got a whole swag of problems. So wise people avoid them. My suggestion here is, in the solutions to sustainability, let's continue to solve problems, but also let's try very hard not to create new ones. So indeed, in this age of change making, let's really try our best to avoid more problems as we go about it. So this is what we really need. We need lots of Yodas out in the world, lots of wise leaders who seem to understand the force of good and can influence people to come along for the ride. We take our foundation for leadership as very important. Our programs are very experiential, and I urge us all to have a look at ourselves in the framework of this 4Rs foundation. This work comes from Sarah Parkin, and her book, The Positive Deviant, and we indeed use this as well and share a similar foundation for our work. So this is about resilience, and I think resilience in this day and age is incredibly important. And to define it, resilience is the capacity of a material, system or person to experience shocks whilst retaining essentially the same function, structure, feedbacks and therefore identity. The more resilient, the larger the disruption it can absorb. And I suggest that's where we are. Where I see a lot in capability building with individuals and organisations is indeed we actually need a lot of individual resilience as well. Okay, burnout is something certainly that we see. Relationships. Relationships is another fundamental part of the 4Rs. Relationships are key to our own well-being. They give meaning to why we do what we do, And it's also an essential part of the solution. We're not going to be able to do this by ourselves. As the African saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And again, I think it is about our community and our family, but it is indeed at a point of greater need in working together. Reflection. Reflection is on our beliefs, our values, the assumptions we're making, our actions, reflecting on what we've done well, what hasn't worked, and why before we retry. It's time to learn from doing, and action learning is certainly going to be a huge part of this. We don't have time to know everything about the journey. In fact, that's not possible in this situation. So we're actually just going to have to get on and do and learn from it in the doing. Reverence. Sarah Parton talks about reverence, and I actually, I think this is fundamental part of perhaps where we've also gone wrong, and maybe it's the irreverence that we've had that leads us to the situation that we find ourselves and has taken away from us from that 60,000 years of sustainability that perhaps was experienced on this land prior. So I urge us all to look at how we can be more reverent. And what does that mean for me? That means perhaps it's connecting with ourselves, and it's connecting with each other, and it's also connecting with our environment. So how can we do that more? We move on to the 4 Ps. And for me, this is an essential part of taking that reflection into the individual process of capability building for leadership. Definitely start with the why and your purpose, and be really clear on why you do what you do. This isn't an easy game, and I think it's really important that we know why. To be clear on your purpose at every aspect, knowing that that may refine over time as well. Passion, hugely important. We've got to have fun with this stuff. Yeah. Know what you love to do, and don't rule anything out. Okay? My career is so diverse. I've been a clown doctor, a nurse, so many different things. And I can tell you that every role I've had plays a part in what I do now. So don't rule anything out. And don't rule anything out that's you don't deem as part of your career either. Potential. Okay? So it's know why you do what you want to do, know what you love to do, but also know what you're good at. And that may not be something you necessarily enjoy, but it may be that you do something incredibly natural, easy to do, very effective. Yeah? So don't forget to identify what it is in your strengths and opportunities, and your strengths and skills. Part of our belief in terms of growing capability for leadership is certainly in identifying your strengths and skills, but also the sectors. And this, again, doesn't have to necessarily mean a job or a role. But we talk about the 10 leadership niches. And I ask you as I go through these slides just to look at what ones you identify with or see yourself as already creating change in. So thought leaders. Are you someone who gets the big picture? Are you a systemic thinker? Yeah, so you understand why problems exist and perhaps have access to those solutions. Communicators. Sometimes the thought leaders aren't the communicators. They have great ideas, they understand the problem, they understand the solutions, but they're not necessarily the one to be able to communicate that. Yeah? So look at scientists for an example in that. Sometimes scientists do an amazing job at communicating, so it may or may not be your strength. If it's not, team up with someone who's great at this. They may not get the problem, they may not get all the solutions, but they know how to affect and communicate it to an audience and engage. Yeah? So team up with one of these. These are great to have. Try again. Social entrepreneurs. There's a couple in this room that I know of, but I'm sure there's plenty more amongst you. So they just, do you know social entrepreneurs? They just seem to be able to get something done. They have an idea, they're very passionate about it, social, environmental change, a project. They manage to get it up and running, okay? So yes, jack of all trades and determined and very great at action. Sector greeners. So in our fellowship programs, we recruit for diversity specifically. So we have government, we have NGO, we have community grassroots activists, we have high-flying corporates, we have the whole gamut, and we do that because we believe in the power of diversity and the sharing of knowledge. Sector greeners, I often come up with people who, there's a lot of guilt So some of our alumni are big marketers in Coke or sit there in government decision making and struggle with this. But sometimes people realise that after they leave that, they actually need to go back into it because that's actually where they create the most change. So if you're in an organisation that you think, oh, you know, this isn't completely aligned with my values, that may be okay or it may not. You need to make that choice. But ask yourself, where are you the most effective to create change? And maybe it is that place. So how can you continue to be a sector greener wherever that is and it to be sustainable and meaningful for you as well? Business entrepreneurs. Certainly there's probably more needed in this area, particularly in Australia, but understands markets, understands business, passionate about getting new businesses up on the ground, seeing the opportunity and make it happen. But certainly in this new opportunity of radical change and needing to do things differently, there is also business opportunities here, and this is a very real sector to keep in mind. Catalyst. So some people would describe me as a catalyst. So a lot of my alumni call me the catalyst. So I'm not out there doing it, but I actually grow the potential of others to be able to do it. Yeah. So I'm the piece that connects it to increase that enabling. Political movers and shakers who like to stir the pot, we always like them. That may be within your own organisation, it may be in your community. Again, that's not necessarily a role, but really important. And we talked about courage earlier, taking it that one next step as well, which I think is really important too. Organisers, these guys get the bad rap. Don't you know, if you're an organiser, like I'm a reasonably good organiser, but you know, you can suddenly get dumped with everything or seen as a very secondary role. I think it's really important to note here that being able to organise something is really important and essential to team up for someone. You know, if you're a great thought leader or a great political mover and shaker, you can't organise yourself out of your bedroom in the morning. You need to team up with one of these. Okay? So let's not undervalue the organisers in the room. Modellers. We've had some great examples of modellers in the world, of people who build something, have a vision, and create a micro example of it. So that actually it grows our belief in it being possible. We can actually see it, experience it, learn from it. I talked a little bit about action learning, reflect on what worked, what didn't, before we actually scale it up. So I think modelling is really important too. Research commissioners, being able to go into that level of detail, this is not something where my strength lies, but definitely having that resource and building on that knowledge and then knowing what to do with that knowledge and who to send it to is really critical in this space too. So they're the 10 that we see, and I'm sure there's more. And I'd like you to think about which one you might be, and there may be more than one. Also like you to think about who you might need to team up with. Where are your areas you're not so good at? Do you know someone who does that really well, who shares a similar passion to you, that could actually help you to achieve what you want to achieve? Okay? Also ask you, staying with the Star Wars things, I like Star Wars. I guess one of the arguments about vision and influence is that sometimes people have a lot of vision but they don't have a lot of influence, and that's certainly how CSL came to be. It was to grow that capacity to create change, effect and influence. The argument has been perhaps in previous examples of leadership, or perhaps at least from a distance, that as influence grew, perhaps the vision was lost. And maybe even in the Darth Vader example, perhaps the vision wasn't lost, but became distorted along the way, or people forgot about the bigger picture or the values behind it. So I also urge you to look at this and ask yourself, where are you now? If you were to plot yourself on an axis of vision and influence, where do you see yourself now? What did your vision used to be? And how do you connect to that vision now? Or have you kind of lost it along the way? As things have got busy, you got promoted, more responsibilities, managing more people. Yeah. So ask you to connect back to that vision. And how can we be up there with the Yoda? Okay, so this is, I could talk on, and I'm going to talk some more later, but I actually want to hand it over to you guys. Okay, because this is about leadership for sustainability, and you all have the potential to step up even more of what you're doing now in creating more effective change. So I want you now to share with a pair on your table, name one thing that you're passionate about, One potential strength or skill. Potential, you may be doing it right now, or it may be something that you know that you're naturally good at but that you're not using in the workplace. And also one leadership niche, at least one leadership niche. That tested you to see if you remember them. I also ask you to commit to one thing you could do leaving today that would look like you stepping up as an effective leader for sustainability. So take a moment, we'll probably have about 3 or 4 minutes, we'll check the time and look at markers, but just take some time to write that for yourself and share with someone on your table now those things, and preferably someone you don't know very well.